Brief announcement before we begin our service. I'm going to ask people to make sure they have their phones either turned on silent or totally off. We're going to begin our service with military honors. I'm going to ask those who are able to rise at this time. If you have served in the U.S. military and been honorably discharged or currently serving in the military, you may perform the hand salute. Thank you.
Bugler, sound taps.
אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. When I die, give what's left of me away to my children and to those who wait to die. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known and loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes, not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children when they need to break free. For love doesn't die, but people do. And so when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Amen. These words of the poet Merritt Malloy are called to heart this afternoon, as we ask an abundant source of mercy in the universe to send compassion, love, and comfort to each of us, as we remember this good and decent man. El Harachaman, you have taken from us a good friend. Sam Minoff is missed already. His kindness, his warmth, his sense of humor. His sense of humor. God, get ready to laugh. Let us draw comfort today from loved ones, from communities of meaning and shared purpose. But be with us, God. Hear us. Let us draw comfort from acts of kindness that we offer to one another, echoing Sam's great and good life. You should only know that your presence here today, all of you, it touches Sam's family greatly. Ata imadi, the psalmist teaches, you are with them. And that means a great deal. Family invites you, if you wish, to continue to mourn with them, as after our service is concluded here at Berkowitz-Kumin, we will have a service of interment at Mayfield Cemetery, followed by the receiving of friends at the Beachmont Country Club at 29600 Chagrin Boulevard. This afternoon, beginning at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. Tomorrow afternoon from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m., and again on Tuesday evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friends who wish to honor Sam's life are encouraged to contribute to any of his favorite causes. University Hospitals of Cleveland, Cleveland Clinic Foundation, the Jewish Community Federation of Cleveland, the Cleveland Museum of Art, or the Claire and Sam Minoff Endowment Fund, care of Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple. And of course, over the days and weeks to come, the family invites your favorite memories, your stories, your gestures of love and condolence. Rabbi Alvin Rubin writes, birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowledge, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, strength to weakness, often back again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made a journey. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey. Sam's life was a sacred pilgrimage, stage by stage from birth to death unto life everlasting. Amen. Dear friends, I know it's the midst of Passover, but I want to share a story about pastries. A delicious dessert that Jews call rugelach. It seems there was an elderly man who was very ill and many parts of his system were failing over his advanced years. So one day he called one of his sons into his bedroom and he said, "Listen, I may not be well. I can't hear so good, I can't see so good, but I can smell all the way up here that someone's baking rugelach. You know I love rugelach. This could be the last rugelach I'll ever have. Will you go downstairs and get me some, will you?" Apparently the son left the room and 5 minutes went by and then 10 and 15 minutes later the son returned to his dad, empty-handed. The father said, "Hey, where's the rugelach I asked you for?" The son replied, "Pop, Mom says I'm saving them for the Shiva." I know. I could have handled it better. It's not your average Sam Minoff joke, a little too long. Reminds me, though, of a hilarious spoof that Roy once sent me by text, a video called Shiva Crashers, about people who make their way around town eating only at Shiva. But it seemed to me that if we don't mark even this solemn occasion with some irreverence, we'd be doing our friend Sam Minoff a disservice. This man knew his way through the ins and outs and every single spontaneous wince, every dramatic pause, every time the corner of his cheek would rise and fall on the wave of seeing the person in his company laugh for the first time, or for the first time since the last time he told you that joke. These little things were grease for the wheels that kept Sam moving along for a very long, accomplished life worthy of praise, from which we will learn much. My name is Rob Nosenchuk. I'm one of the rabbis at Fairmount Temple, and I met Sam Minoff 14 years ago at a mutual friend, Will Sukenick's home. I was really introduced to him, though, more personally a few months later over lunch at Delmonico's in Independence. I was pretty new to my gig as rabbi at the time. Sam was, well, he wasn't the only one who had me on double top secret probation to see how if I turned out. But lunch with Sam wasn't how I expected. I quickly discovered he was just collecting information to refine his shtick to be just exactly right for my ears. I got the first chuckle out of him, though, when he laughed, saying he was sorry because he didn't realize he had just taken his vegetarian rabbi out to a steakhouse. I thought he might want to know what I was going to do for Temple. No, he figured others had it covered. Sam learned pretty quickly that I was born in Detroit, where he was born as well, the youngest of three sons, as was he. He was the youngest of the three sons of Max and Anna. Harold Sam Minoff was predeceased by his parents and his brothers, Norman and Manny, many of whose loved ones connect with this service today up close and personal or at distance on live stream, remembering their Uncle Sam with love. Sam's first home was near 7 Mile in the Detroit area, though the bulk of his upbringing, though, was in the Bronx. His earliest education in New York City's Stuyvesant High School. But he made his way back and forth from time to time to Detroit through business and promised me a whole stash of Detroit jokes by the next time we get together. He delivered. Like so many of you who knew him for many more years than I have, Sam wanted to know really what made others tick, or what made them tickled, to be more precise. Few people you'll meet are as consistent as this man. He sought the same giggle from all of us. If you were his neighbor here or in Boca, his friend or Claire's or theirs, a person from work, fellow regular, or even a member of the waitstaff at Original Pancake House, if you were a supplier or a business owner with a contract for the family's lighting company, if you were a friend to Amy or her Mike, to Roy, to Barry, and Alav Shalom, if you were one of the precious people who remembered with blessing Sam and Claire's late son, Marty, who died after the terribly small lifespan of only 8 years If you played any of these roles anywhere in his life, even if you were a caregiver he met just last week at Ahuja, your smile was the gold that Sam sought to discover. Until he could no longer connect, the connection he made was radiating light and positivity and laughter. And you were making a mistake if you thought you could kid this kidder. Several years ago, I was at a used bookstore on the West Coast spotting 2 copies of a book called Milton Berle's Secret Joke File. I kept one and sent the other one directly to Sam right from the store. A day or so after I got back to the office, a voicemail was left on my phone with no introduction of who he was or the number to reach him. Sam only deadpanned, "Rabbi, I already know all these jokes." I should have known better than to think Sam had a leg up on Uncle Milty. Over these last 8 years since Claire's death, Sam retained his sense of humor the best he could, as a person can when aging deeper into the 90s, all the while bearing up with all the fault lines and frailties that touch a body that is still in use 10 decades after it comes out of the factory. Amy says, though he'd have had every right to complain, that just wasn't her dad's style. He'd still play gin, maybe shaving off a few of the rules that he used to abide by. He'd kibitz, he'd connect. He made clear that the people he most admired in the world were around him. He longed to spend time and loved spending time with David and his Amanda, Drew, Melissa and her fiancé AJ, Ashley and her Mike, Casey and her fiancé Zach. And these last few weeks on Earth meant he was around to see the arrival and begin to love, just as he always will, Miss Colby Claire London, Sam and Claire's beloved great-granddaughter who sits with us today. If there was a time over these last several years when one of those grandkids, or Amy or Mike or Roy or Barry, had to turn down plans with you, it might be because the first date you offered them crossed with one of their standing weekly times they were going to go out or stay in or play cards or just kibitz and reminisce or plan for the future in some way with their dad. Barry, in announcing his father's loss on social media a couple days ago, described so beautifully his father as a gentle soul, a person loved, revered, admired, and respected, an example to his son of a true gentleman. Roy will tell you in a few moments some of the remarkable things that he and his siblings all saw their dad accomplish and their shared desire to remain true to their parents' spirit. I'm told by all of Sam's kids that going back to their childhood, the true disciplinarian of the house was Mom. The leader of a large company that started small enough for Claire to manage its books, Sam built the business on relationships made very often while traveling and working quite a lot on the road. It is harder to stop ordering from a guy who shows up in every one of those mom and pop businesses and seizes every potential lead, every opportunity, who remembers things about you and your community, who asks where you're from. That's how the company expanded. Roy says that when his dad would come home after traveling, he didn't just bring a pile of candy for the then 3 boys to divvy up. Their dad was himself symbolically tasting the candy, the sweetness, the joie de vivre that his arrival back at home brought to his kids. As he and Barry, and later his son-in-law Mike, participated actively with Sam in the family business, they saw firsthand how a person can set the tone as a leader in industry, in community, and at home. He explained, but more than that, he demonstrated that some of the people you do business with, you don't really like them. And that's not important. What's important is that they like you, and that they trust you, and that you be worthy of trust. He was. Sam was driven to do good work, but he also wanted to be good at being an honest man. Mike will share memories as well in a moment, tributes to his father-in-law conveying essentially what he's told me on most of the occasions we've seen each other over the last decade. That since Mike was only 18, he's looked up to his father-in-law, which is hard to believe for a man who towers over him in stature. but believe it, you should. In my office yesterday, Amy sat by Mike, and she affectionately reminisced about her dad's optimism, his happiness, his model of being non-judgmental, his explanation to her that one of the reasons he believed in God was because of the prize God granted him in her. That man had stature. Having sustained losses that no parent should have to bear, the death of a child, Sam and Claire prized the wellness, the growth, the ambitions, and the loving qualities nourished in each child and grandchild and the people they brought into their lives. And the grandkids looked at their poppy and knew what was patently obvious, that in addition to them, it was Sam's happy wife that was his ticket to a happy life. Creatures of habit, Sam and Claire played nightly games of gin, and she'd give him a run for his money in those games, keeping running score. But truly, their ongoing interest in card games, played socially with friends, poker, canasta, these interests, along with traveling the world with various Kitchener clients, seeing multiple countries, these brightened the gleam Sam and Claire saw in one another's eyes. And it fills Sam's belly as well, especially as they joined a gourmet food club they shared with friends. It made life more sweet and delicious. Not to mention the simple pleasure throughout their nearly 7-decade marriage that he and Claire took in making one of their very favorite things for dinner, a dish called reservations. The thing is that as in love as they were all of their lives, apparently Sam may never have actually proposed to his wife. When they met in the Bronx, she was only 14. After his tour of military duty, lasting 2.5 years, which we've all just honored moments ago. Challenging combat. Sam returned to Trinity Avenue in the Bronx, where Claire's mother proposed marriage to her future son-in-law. Ever the salesman, he saw what was standing between him and Claire, with her asking Sam ever so romantically, "So what's it going to be already?" He probably responded with a Yiddish curse, because that was a language he loved and knew first, but his response affirmed, okay, we'll get married. That's how he told the story to Cantor Sager anyway. They were married, they were in love. The final months of 1946 included many important moments in American culture. In November, the Bears beat the Giants in the Pro Football Championship. In October, the Nuremberg trials came to conclusive verdicts. And in the last week of December, the same week as Claire Dreispel married Sam Minoff, a film starring Jimmy Stewart was released that each of us has watched countless times. The film bore the name that could be the name of Sam's life story. It's called It's a Wonderful Life. That's how Sam felt about his life, that it had all in all been good to him. I will never, ever forget the look in his eyes at Ashley's wedding when I got there. And Ashley told me that she wanted me to process in front of the other members of the bridal party. So I got to my spot by the chuppah and I realized I had the best view in the house to see not just the groom or the bride, you guys looked fine, but to witness the fullness of the glow in Sam's eyes. I kidded him after Mike smashed the glass that their wedding service was just about as long of a Jewish service as Sam Minoff's tuchus has patience for, about 10 to 15 minutes. He laughed, he looked me in the eyes, and I didn't need him to say what he was feeling, because he was conveying it to everyone that whole night. He was happy to be alive. It was a wonderful life. And that's how he sought to stay, even as life's activities have grown narrower and the pandemic changed life so much for so many. Sam's grandson Dave wrote the following words that were conveyed to me as he reflects on his grandfather's legacy. Dave writes, I really didn't think I could hold it together up here as much as I would want to say something. What I will say is that when I was first at Kitchener out of college, my social life had me sometimes coming in at, let's say, later than 8 a.m. But he would always wait for me within reason. And Grandpa and I had breakfast at work maybe 4 days a week for many years. Other memories that are great are many nights of freshly caught fish dinners that I would make at my place or bring fish over to their place and cook for them. Grandma and Grandpa absolutely loved to smash a perch fry, especially when Grandma got to the point when she wasn't really cooking anymore. They loved when I'd make them fresh fish. I loved how much he loved Mitchell's chocolates, and often when he was still allowed to do so, I would drive over to Lee Road and get him some of the chocolate-covered marshmallows. Dave, there isn't a person connected to this service today who believes you didn't still sneak chocolate marshmallows to your grandfather. You knew he had a sweet spot for those and for the perch fries and for breakfasts and for time with grandkids. All of you knew that. He always will. If Sam were still alive, strong and well, he'd be a source of comfort to us. He'd always be reaching out for the sweet stuff. In recent weeks, as Roy reached out to me to indicate that his father's health had been in a bad decline and that he had been suffering some indignities, at no point was Sam's sense of honor, optimism, hope, humility, generosity, decency, grit, and gratitude at risk. When he died at his home this past Shabbat morning, it was peaceful, thank goodness. Here was a man who sought to be sure that his generosity showed up for people when life threw punches at them. Here is a family whose willingness to get behind valued institutions in our community have expanded all of our access to health care. When people are exposed to culture and music and the arts, where Sam's keen interest as well was in maintaining our Jewish heritage, not especially motivated by its religious and spiritual ties, but he felt it was really important, especially because of his traditional Jewish upbringing, that we look out for one another. I remember one time that I thanked him for his contributions of support to Temple. He replied to me, "Stop thanking me for what I'm supposed to do." They don't all say that. Sam did because more than a bissel of his Yiddish heart and soul were invested in our lives today and in the future. He was so invested, especially in his family. Barry, Roy, Amy, their kids, the people they love, each and every branch or twig on Sam and Claire's family tree, they're going to carry that heritage forward. As I was looking for the right verse from our tradition to sum up this man, what came to mind for me was a verse from our daily morning prayers that expresses perspective on life. The verse says, Ashrenu, how enriched we are. And then it continues, Ma tov chelkenu, because of how good our portion is. Uma na'im hagoralenu, how sweet our destiny. Uma yafa yerushatenu, how beautiful our legacy. These values, ones of finding a sense of contentment in your portion, contributing to a brighter and more kind and hopeful future, touching that future with honor, with humility, and with a sense of humor. These are excellent traits we will all carry on for you, Sam. Ma na'im hagoralenu, we will carry them on. Ma yafa yerushatenu, we will know what you taught us, that life includes many difficult experiences. We can work hard to attain the goal of a lasting legacy so that our loved ones can lend us their eyes and see what is yet to come. May that be our blessing. Amen. I'm honored to call now on Sam's son-in-law, Mike Southard, to share some memories and reflections about his father-in-law.
I need my glasses for this. Excuse me. In case you don't know me, I'm Mike Southard, Amy's husband and Sam's son-in-law. What can I say about Sam? A lot. But don't worry, this will be short and sweet. Some people have celebrities they idolize. I never really have. Other than my own dad, Sam was a person I looked up to the most. We all know what a smart, hardworking, and successful businessman he was, but what I respected the most is his love for Claire and the rest of the family. Family always came first. He did everything he could to keep the family close and united. His outlook on life was always positive, and it tended to rub off on many. He was very generous with many organizations and with individuals as well. Quick to share a $20 bill with a stranger. Of course, if you spent any time with him, you definitely got to hear some great jokes. One of his favorite PG one is, "Did you hear about the cross-eyed teacher? She couldn't keep her pupils straight." We are so happy that Sam got to meet his new great-granddaughter, Colby Claire. She certainly made him smile, which he did a lot anyway. Amy wanted me to mention how grateful the whole family is for the caregivers who took care of him for over 5 years. We don't know what we would have done without you. Thank you all so much. My love of wine was because of Sam. He and Claire took Amy and me to Napa Valley about 30 years ago. I learned so much, so many things from Sam about business, life, and overall how to be a good person. Sam, we will miss you so much. Give Claire a hug for us all. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming to mourn and pay tribute to my dad. Touched so many people's lives. He set such a stellar example of how to live life well by caring so much for others and being a good listener, and well, by telling so many jokes. My dad was a genuine role model for all of us. I believe many qualities made him remarkable, and I'll name a few of them here. He was always the calm in the face of any storm, and that even includes the slippery slope he descended on as he grew older and more dependent. His fortitude was awe-inspiring. He demonstrated that by daily exercise with a stationary bike or doing laps around the home with his walker. His attitude, it was so very rare to ever hear him complain about anything. Despite his declining health, failing eyesight, couldn't hear much at all at the end, didn't complain. And the man never got COVID. I mean, everyone's we're all wearing masks, right, all the time. And he, at 98, occasional doctor appointments, how many different facilities, never got sick. Amazing. By the way, he turned 98 a week ago today, and many of us were lucky enough to be there to celebrate his birthday, regardless of what kind of shape he was in. To capture a little more about him personally, and his personality, I want to read a few lines from an article written about him in 2019. Running a business can be a grind, but that never stripped Sam Minoff of his smile or his sense of humor. The 64-year-old Beechwood resident operated Kichler, the world's leading residential decorative lighting fixture company. He was the guy who walked around the office with a twinkle in his eye, frequently seizing opportunities to make light of life. And he would walk through the facility almost every day and talk to people working there, whether they were janitors or whatever they were, and making them feel good about where they were working and trying to get them to smile. He was a lifelong entrepreneur. He got started when he was 12 years old. He started a shoe shine business on the streets of the Bronx, where he grew up with his two brothers, one of whom he briefly employed until his brother made a mistake of getting shoe polish on a customer's socks. He also fired me during my teens for showing up late to work too many times at Kichler. But in my case, he rehired me a few weeks later, and I learned a lesson. When my dad bought the Kitchler back in the 50s from Leonard's grandfather and grandmother out there, it was because he always wanted to own his own business if he could. He said he never knew how big it could be, but he knew he could work as hard as he could, and he had every intention to grow it. He worked through his 70s and part of his 80s and consistently enjoyed focusing on new products and product catalogs. Kitchener's first catalog had 14 pages with 60 products. By the time the company was sold in 2018, they went from 14 pages to 350 pages in the newer catalogs and 4,500 products, not 60. Beginning with my dad, Kitchener had 2 full-time employees. One was named Sam Minoff. Kitchener grew to 1,100 employees in 5 countries eventually. He started by primarily selling around northern Ohio. Eventually would sell in every state in the U.S. and in 42 countries. Some may not know about my dad, since he was exceptionally humble, is that he was very well traveled, and as he puts it, he spoke 5 languages, including French, Spanish, German, Yiddish, and as he puts it, profane. He was a passionate art glass collector, and the genesis of impressive collection stemmed from dealing with glass regularly as part of the lighting fixture creation process. After graduating high school, my dad enlisted in the Navy, where he served for 3 years as a machinist mate and was involved in a number of South Pacific's largest battles during World War II. Later in life, he carved out healthcare as the primary focus of his philanthropic activity. My parents' generosity at university hospitals began in 2014 with the establishment of the Minoff Family Innovation Fund at university hospitals to develop transformative technologies and improve patient outcomes. The donation for the UH Minoff Health Center got a lot of attention, but the Cleveland Clinic also named him to their 1921 society after 2 significant donations to the Cole Eye Clinic. He made a difference for a number of people and institutions: Jewish Community Federation, Hebrew Shelter Home, Cleveland Museum of Art, Cleveland Zoo. And as the rabbi pointed out, up until mere weeks ago, he was still kicking our butt at Gin Rummy, which was something I was lucky enough to be able to enjoy nearly every Saturday afternoon along with my girlfriend June. Not many people get to hang out with their parents all the way to 98. Last point I'd like to make is that, and you probably all heard it, but say it again, the shortest distance between 2 people is a smile and a laugh, and that's why everyone who knows him has been a frequent audience to his frequent jokes. I can't imagine a better father than my dad has been. He lit the way for all of us. Thanks to all of those that have helped him over the recent years. Caregivers were awesome. Nurses, doctors, some of the docs at Doc Simon. Thanks, and family that was there for him always. Thanks to all. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Will you all please rise for the El Male prayer? El Male Rachamim, Shchen Bamromin, חמצי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים הטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזכירים, את נשמת שמואל בן מתן שהלך לעולמו, בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. God of abundant mercy, the one most high, may the soul of our dear one, Sam Minoff, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with all whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he and Claire together find a home with you. May he rest in peace. Amen. Still waters and restoreth my soul. Guides me in straight paths.
We ask those who are going to that service, please enter directly to your cars. Put on your headlights and your hazard flash. On behalf